Well, the crypto market is ending the year on a high. Bitcoin inching closer to that $45,000 mark. And the likes of Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and Bitcoin miner Marathon are also rocketing. But what other twists and turns can investors expect next year? Yahoo Finance's senior reporter David Hollerith is here with the breakdown. David, you followed this close enough to know there's always a twist and turn, right? Multiple twists and turns when it comes to this space.
Yeah, Kika, I want to take just a second just to point out that, crypto sort of crawled into 2023. At least in terms of price action, it's been kind of phenomenal how resilient the asset class has been. I mean, there's been no shortage of crackdowns by U.S. regulators this year. We've seen key leaders be forced into retirement, if not prison, for what took place over 2022. And that being said, we've also seen this speculation and increasing optimism for Bitcoin spot ETFs to come sometime next year, and that's all up in the air. But obviously, I mean, there's issuers who are launching commercials already. We've seen our first celebrity commercial actually this week. So the whole question of this year has been that Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general do seem to be back, but also I think there's this continual regulatory struggle in the U.S. that is nowhere close to being solved right now. So, we're positioned for kind of an industry and market that does not really look so different from how things started off in 2020. And I did want to point out, just as evidence for, what's in store, like investors are, along with the ETFs, are hopeful about a specific Bitcoin situation. The supply is going to be cut in half. The supply, new issuance, will be cut in half around April of next year, because crypto and Bitcoin are risk-on assets. Investors do seem to believe too that they could benefit from any potential Federal Reserve interest rate decreases over in the next year if those were to happen. And that being said, companies are already beginning to come out of winter and get back into investment. A great example of this has actually happened today. It was Marathon Digital acquired 2 new Bitcoin mining sites. They've increased their Bitcoin mining capacity by about 50%. So, these mining companies have to work pretty far in advance with their capital expenditures. And the fact that they're doing this is sort of another suggestion that there's a lot of expectation about what could happen next year.
And certainly seeing that market continuing to mature as when we think of where we started with Bitcoin. David, I also want to talk about Senator Elizabeth Warren. She's continuing to crack down on the crypto industry. What's the story there?
Yeah, Rochelle, I mean, I think we could go back to the big bank hearings that we saw in the Senate earlier this month. It struck me as interesting that Senator Elizabeth Warren actually came out and was largely, in agreement with the bank CEOs, and she came out to sort of focus on crypto. And CEO Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan Chase, found common ground with her and sort of voicing their concern about cryptocurrencies. Most recently, though, she's pointing out and scrutinizing companies for the open door policy. She's concerned about the amount of former government officials who are now working for crypto firms. And this is definitely a big deal and worth looking into. I mean, another thing that is worth pointing out is the lobbying effort that the industry is poised to do next year. We found out yesterday that Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, and a number of key industry players have also raised about $78 million to fund super PACs for pro-crypto initiatives or pro-crypto political advocacy. So it's really going to heat up next year. I also do speak with some people who follow financial policy in Washington a little bit more closely, and there's still a lot of skepticism about whether or not things will actually get done in election year. I mean, there are two bills that are circulating right now in the House. And, I think that it's all remains to be seen about what happens. But, this is the main thing that critics have said all year to me, is that really not a lot has changed in terms of regulatory disclosures and more transparency into the sector since 2020 or 2022, excuse me. So whether or not this actually changes much of or prevents anything that happened in the past cycle, a lot of skeptics are kind of weary that anything has really changed.
Okay, we'll see if 2024 is the year of change. David Hollerith, bringing us up to date in the crypto space. Thanks so much for that.